Yes, so hi everybody watching this video. My name is Tanya Verdeen and I'm the founder of Not the Norm Limited and manufacturer of Shade All Natural Sunscreen. And I'd just like to introduce you to who sent us a wonderful email yesterday, which prompted me to contact her and ask her if she'd like to come on and have a chat. And we thought it would be a good idea to record it for other people because she's got some quite unique experience to share with you. And I'm just going to read out her email first before we get chatting. So this is what you sent to me, is it not? Yesterday, I got the message saying, I'm allergic to every single sun lotion. I've tested them all, but we can never pinpoint the thing I'm allergic to. My allergy is so bad that I can't wear makeup, lip balm, face cream if it contains an SPF. I have an allergy to UVB. It causes a small, very painful blister-type rash when I go out without covering up. This is the first sunscreen that I've been able to use, and you have no idea how happy I am to have some defense against the sun. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are wonderful. Take care, and I hope you're all well. So obviously, your message made my day. It's not the first time I've had similar messages. I have to say, you know, luckily the sunscreen does seem to be very good for people with allergic skin conditions because it is so minor in ingredients. There's so few ingredients.
Yeah, there's those 4 ingredients and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And you take a bottle of Nivea and it's got a similar brand, and the list of ingredients is like this.
Yeah, as long as your arm.
Yeah, and if you're allergic to sunscreen and you're trying to find trying to find a common element in that huge great big list, there are loads of them. So you can't actually pinpoint, because we've read the back of all of those bottles, and you can't necessarily pinpoint that one specific thing, but it wouldn't matter anyway because they're in them all.
Yeah. So it's I mean, it could be a combination of some of the ingredients. You know, it could be anything. It could be that none of it's working anyway, and the sun's hurting you. So especially as you say, you've got the UVB sensitivity. So
we realized it when I was younger. It was a particularly hot summer. I think it was sort of 88 or 89, somewhere around there. And my dad said, I mean, the rest of me was quite covered up, but my face wasn't. My dad said it looked like I had a mask on, with all these, it's like a rash of tiny little blisters. And it's almost like, he said it's almost like you had a Halloween mask on. He said it was awful.
Is it very sore or itchy?
Oh, it's excruciatingly itchy and painful at the same time, and you're trying not to scratch it, and it's this vile thing. And oddly enough, it's quite common, and people don't necessarily realize it because we're a northern hemisphere country. We don't technically normally or used to get the UV levels that we do now. And it's called polymorphic light eruptions. And if you get, I had to Google the actual jargon. It's a common rash caused by skin being sensitive to sunlight. The main symptom of polymorphic light eruptions is an itching or burning rash that can appear after several hours outside on a sunny day. Polymorphic light eruptions usually goes away on its own if there's no further sun damage. A steroid cream or ointment can help settle the rash. I just start taking the antihistamines and hope it just goes away, but it covers my arms, it covers my hands, it covers my neck, it covers my face, and of course I shave my head as well because I have health conditions, and styling hair is something that I'm not particularly interested in doing anymore. So of course I wear a hat, cover up, I don't go on the beach, I don't go out if it's, you know, I have to check the UV levels even in winter sometimes, because the UV, despite the fact that you might think it's winter and it's cold outside, you're still going to have enough of a UV level to give you this weird outbreak, and it's the UVB that primarily causes it.
Right.
Even sitting in the car.
Gosh.
You know, you could always tell my driving arm because, you know, it would start to blister after a little while, and it is after a couple of hours. It doesn't happen straight away. It's not like you get off the beach and you've caught the sun. You suddenly feel your face burning after sort of, you know, 2-3 hours of being outside, much like a normal allergy reaction. It's not an instantaneous thing, and then all of a sudden you start to come out it goes red, and then it starts to get these tiny little blisters that then pop and go crusty, and it's quite painful. And I've covered myself in calamine lotion, and it's just got to the point where it's like, well, if it's sunny and above low to moderate UV, I just either don't go out or I'm so covered up that, you know, you roast.
You
boil in your clothes, because I even have UV clothing from a company, and UV arm protectors that cyclists buy, and so it's a case of just layering it all up and hoping that my face survives. So finding this sun lotion that I can actually use, especially on my face, is amazing. It really, really is amazing, because I don't have to sit there and think, how much pain am I going to be in? Am I going to be able to wear my glasses? Or are my glasses going to pop all the blisters that are formed? So
not only has the sunscreen not caused a reaction in its own right, it's also prevented the UVB reaction that you would normally expect after a couple of hours.
Even at the sort of low SPF, I know they say the bigger the SPF, the better. In some cases, it doesn't matter, because any sun protection is good sun protection as far as I'm concerned. And it is the only one that I have found out of even the ones marketed for babies. I can't even use those. And so it is the only sun lotion, full stop, end of story, that I have been able to put anywhere near me. You know, I'd slather up my children with sun lotion.
And they don't have any sign of the same issue at all?
No, not at all. No, they go a wonderful shade of brown, actually. But I'd have to use gloves to cover them up, and then I couldn't touch them. I couldn't hug them, couldn't do anything like that until they'd had a bath in the evening, and then it would be huge cuddles, because finally, you know, we can hug mum. Otherwise, I'd come up in a rash because they'd hug me while they were covered in sun lotion. So it's they're going to probably be using it as well.
So I don't think people really appreciate those other impacts that a sun protection allergy itself could have. You know, those personal other impacts. You know, not being able to grab your kids, you know, on a sunny beach, you know, because you've lathered them up in sunscreen. I mean, it's not something that we really think about. We just think of the primary problem of you being affected by the sunscreen.
I wouldn't be able to hold their hands if we were we used to go to holiday in the Isle of Wight, and of course there's a lot of places to go in the Isle of Wight, especially when kids are at a certain age, like sort of 9-10ish. There's loads of places you can take them, and but I wouldn't be able to hold their hands. So if I wanted to make sure that they stayed in one place, I'd have to hold the back of their t-shirts. So I wouldn't even be able to hold their hands, because I would literally just lather them everywhere.
Yeah.
Because sun protection. So yeah, there's and the same with my partner. There's no hugging, no touching, no nothing until everybody's had a shower or a wash and gotten rid of all of the sun lotion.
And if you, I suppose also, did you have an issue when you were picking up their clothes when, you know, you couldn't, because their clothes would have the sunscreen on? Really, it's that
everything
sensitive.
with gloves. And
gosh.
especially then if I touched my face, because my face is obviously, everybody's face is one of the most sensitive parts. It's one of the reasons why I don't wear makeup anymore. Because 90% of makeup these days has got an SPF in. And I was in hospital having a test done, and at the moment it's obviously still face masks. And it was a nuclear medicine test where you eat a nuclear meal and they follow it through your stomach and into your small intestine. So it's a long test. So you got the face mask on and my lips were drying out. And so I said to my mum, have you got a lip balm? So she gave me a Vaseline one and it had an SPF in it. And I didn't even think to check. Yeah, I put it on and, you know, 10 minutes later, my lips burning and I'm like, okay, hang on, check the tube, straight to the bathroom, scrubbing my lips with the soap you've got in hospitals, which is quite abrasive.
Which is pretty caustic stuff,
Yeah, and my mum's apologising left, right and centre and I'm like, well, you know, it's these tiny little letters.
Right, so small that you wouldn't know.
The bottom of it, SPF, such. Yeah, you wouldn't even think that it was in a face balm, so and a lip balm, so I sort of have to check everything.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been an avid ingredient reader since I had allergies. Like they weren't strictly allergies, they were like food intolerances, basically because I had candida at the age of, you know, having had the pill for 3 years as a teenager or whatever. And you know, the only way to handle these food allergies, you know, to manage those was to read everything, all the ingredients. So I've sort of become very, very careful about what I put in me and what I put on me. And that's where this kind of sunscreen sort of was born from. You know, I had a letter from school saying you need to supply a sunscreen with your daughter in the summer months that she can apply herself. And I'm like, well, I don't know of any sunscreens that I would put on my child. You know, we always were just careful. We just didn't spend too much time in the sun. We always wore, you know, adequate clothing and other protection, and we were just sensible, and they never got burnt, you know. But I thought, well, if I have to send one in, I'm going to have to find one. Couldn't find anything that I was happy to put on her skin at all. So I thought, well, how difficult can it be? It's going to be a matter of finding a sunscreen active ingredient and then finding something that keeps it on the skin. And so I did a lot of Googling and, you know, searching around, and I just thought, well, fragrances, they're unnecessary. I did start with a fragranced formula. You know, I put some food grade, you know, tropical thing, mango and pineapple or whatever, and coconut or whatever. But they weren't the popular ones. The ones that actually sold were the unscented ones. And I thought, okay, well, there's just no point in doing the fragrance. That's an additional ingredient that's completely unnecessary.
You don't need it.
You know,
you don't need it.
What we're doing is we're buying, you know, we're buying a helmet to go out riding. We're not actually worried about the color of the helmet. It's the actual purpose of the helmet that matters. And you know, we acknowledge that there's some danger in what we're going to do, so we need to take some protection and precaution, and that's it. You know, that's what it has to do. That's all it has to do. And so long as it does that adequately, then and so long as we are sensible and, you know, acknowledge the limitations of the product as well, because it all does come down to the individual using it appropriately. You know, so minimum ingredients, that's all that is, and it proves that you don't need any of those other ingredients.
No, you don't at all. And I used it yesterday actually. I've had to take a course of doxycycline, which is an antibiotic. It's a particularly vile one. But what it does is it causes photosensitivity to the point where some people have ended up actually not realizing how bad it can get and being in hospital with quite severe burns, especially if it's a long-term use. Fortunately, mine was just sort of your atypical 7-day thing, and it took 10 minutes. That's all it took. 10 minutes outside. But I used it yesterday to pop out, you know, and didn't have a problem. And it was quite warm, and it was high UV when I went out, and covered my face with it, and I was wearing a hat anyway. And my arms up to my elbows because I had pulling my sleeves up. And it was great, and it was absolutely fantastic. And it doesn't feel unpleasant, because a lot of them, when I was sort of patch testing, that they don't feel very nice, to be honest with you. They feel, I don't know, plaggy. It feels nice. It's a nice, it goes on really well. It doesn't take ages to you don't end up looking like you got a chalkboard on your face, which is nice. You know, you're not covered in white. So it goes, you know, you can smooth it in quite nicely. It doesn't, again, it's unscented, which is great, because I'm allergic to a lot of, I have a lot of contact allergies, so a lot of the sort of scented things I have to stay way clear of anyway. And it's just all round a really nice, pleasant sun. I don't know if it's a cream or
some balm.
Balm, yes, it's got more of a balm feel to it than a cream feel to it, but it goes on like a cream once it's warmed itself up. And I like that, because then it's not, you don't open the tin and it goes everywhere. And it's just so brilliant to find something that I can actually use, and then everybody else can use it, and I don't have to worry about touching other people.
That's the other thing I was going to say, you know, are you switching your kids to it now so that they can use it? I mean, that's the other thing. So many kids have such sensitive skin, you know, it's very immature skin. It can't cope with the amount of chemicals and fragrances and things like this.
I'd like to say that they had immature skin. My youngest is actually 17.
Oh, right.
I've got a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old who will be 19 soon, and a 25-year-old.
Right.
So, but that doesn't matter, because you still want to hug your kids. I still get hugs off my 25-year-old. She still wants to hold my hand sometimes. So it's still, you know, we are a close family. So it's going to be nice to be able to do that. So they've got adequate sun protection, and they can still grab their mum, you know, which is absolutely fantastic.
And you know that they'll no longer be having any sort of interesting chemicals being absorbed into their skin, which, you know, there's a lot of press these days about, you know, hormone disruptors and things like that, and sunscreens.
They've recalled a lot of brands, haven't they? They've recalled. I read while I was having a
banana boat was recalled. I don't know if it's available so much in the UK, but in the US and Canada, I think it's been recalled.
There's quite a few.
But that was due to the benzene propellant, because it's a spray cream, isn't it? But yeah, there are lots of issues with many products. We have to just be so super careful. You know, we get bombarded with chemicals in our diet, in our water, you know, in the air. You know, why would you willingly put them on your skin as well if you can avoid it?
And I've tried to sort of, you know, talk to doctors about it, and you know, is there a prescription one that's essentially much the same? And no, it's generally not something that's catered to in a way, and it should be, because I cannot be the only person who can't use sun lotion.
No, exactly. Yeah, and you're not. I mean, I know lots of people who have contacted us and said it's the only sunscreen I can use. I will never use any other sunscreen again.
No.
And they have, similar to you, tried everything, you know, and they just sort of resign themselves to never really being able to enjoy family times out in the sun, which is just heartbreaking.
Or just suck it up like I do, you know. I'll go and I'll enjoy that time with my family, knowing exactly what's going to happen several hours after the event. You know, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to be in a moderate amount of discomfort and pain because of this condition, and I have multiple sclerosis,
right,
which is sort of my primary health condition, and a lot of comorbidities that go with it.
Right.
And along with that is obviously you have strange nervous based sensations. So my ears are always really itchy, so every now and again, if you'll see me doing that, it's because I'm trying to stop my ears from itching. And that sort of makes everything just that bit more sensitive. So if you end up with sunburn or the polymorphic light eruptions, it sort of adds just that little bit extra to the discomfort level
that you're already experiencing by default. It's just your underlying issue going on. So I'm very pleased that we've managed to find something.
I'm ecstatic. You have no idea how brilliant it is. I will say that I read on the website that you're unsure, it's not been water tested.
No, exactly. And did you see why we decided not to do that?
It took me a good 3 washes with, I use Wright's coal tar soap because it's the only soap I can use to get it off. So it is, I would say, actually quite resistant to water. I don't know about salt water. I don't know if it's one of those things, but I'd say, you know, regular reapplying like any lotion that you would use if you are going swimming or in the water. But if you're just wandering around with it, it does like to stay.
It's persevering,
which is great.
I mean, it's interesting because I went to it was a sort of seminar with a company called Eruption that does a lot of SPF testing, and one of the main guys who runs the testing unit down in Australia was over here, and he did this seminar, and there were probably only about 12 of us in the room. You know, we're all formulators or manufacturers. I was there with a massive amount of what do they call it, imposter syndrome.
Yes.
You know, I've never studied chemistry or formulations or anything like that, but you know, there were the formulators for Boots there, and you know, other big companies, and we were discussing the testing processes and things that they use, both lab testing and sort of, you know, like in vitro and in vivo testing that they do for SPF, but also the water testing. And he was saying, you know, it's all done in a pretty much like a jacuzzi in a lab, you know, so it's tap water. They're not using the abrasive salt water in a sea setting where you've got waves, where you've got sand, you know, where you've got all these things that contribute to the sort of erosion of the layer of sunscreen on your skin or whatever. You know, obviously chemical sunscreens work by absorbing it into the skin anyway, so they're not necessarily going to be hugely affected by, or at least the sun actives that you have to put on 15 minutes before exposure for them to get into the skin and work before, you know, you expose. So yeah, I mean, I just thought, well, and Which had done a sort of survey, or they sent products independently for testing to see how waterproof they were in comparison to their claims, and they found that they, you know, I can't remember the actual results or statistics or the brands that they tested, but I do know that, you know, it came about that some of the brands just weren't up to the level of, you know, real-time testing, real-time exposure as they said they were. So I just thought, I just don't want to make claims for our product that
no,
can't necessarily
absolutely
be replicated in real life.
No.
So, you know, these tests aren't hugely expensive, you know, we could always invest in them, but it's just one more claim that essentially takes the sort of, not liability, but the responsibility away from the user. And I think it's very important that the user understands that when they're using something in a risky situation,
you're
responsible for how you use it. You know, we can say SPF 25 on the tin, but that will only be the case if that person uses that amount, you know, exactly as it was lab tested. And that the likelihood of that is low, because you know, like with the white cast, they might want to, you know, we have to just say it's a guide, it's only a guide, you know, it's not an SPF 100 and it's not an SPF 5, it's an SPF 25, which is a region of SPF.
I do base myself in it, in I did when I went out, and it was very much a case of, I don't know how much I'm supposed to use this stuff, I'm just going to go ham. And I still wasn't chalky or anything like that, and it still has a wonderful amount of coverage, and you can use as little or as much of it as you want, which is probably why it took a little while to get off. So I don't know if that helps you at all, in the fact that it took
thank you
flannel, right coal tar soap, water to actually get the stuff off. So that in itself, if you're just swimming or whatever, as long as you practice, you know, the regular reapplying that you would normally do anyway, I think the stuff would stay. To be honest, there was still some actually behind my ears when I had a shower in the evening. But
it's not really the most obnoxious stuff to keep on, really, is it? I mean,
it feels really nice, and it leaves your skin actually very soft after you've used it. You don't feel like you've used an abrasive sponge on your face or anything like that. It actually moisturizes quite nicely after.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because I had another email from a lady yesterday as well who said, well, she found it quite drying. And I have to say that if I have it on my arms, and it's probably because maybe, you know, I think it's a skin type thing at the end of the day, you know, the zinc oxide is quite astringent, you know, it will sort of wick out some moisture from the skin, which is why the oils and the wax and the shea butter and things really help to mitigate that in most people. And I think your experience of it being very moisturizing is generally the case, but there are people like myself and the lady yesterday who might find it a little bit drying. But you know, at the end of the day, the thing is, it's not a moisturizer, it's primary.
It's
primary. So always I just put some more moisturizer on afterwards, and when I've finished in the sun, you know, obviously I don't put it on over the sunscreen, because I don't want to sort of water it down, as it were, you know, or dilute its effect. I mean,
technically speaking, it was sort of added to my regular moisturizer, because I did find one moisturizing cream that I could use, which again was great.
Can you tell us what that is, just because?
It's Aveeno.
Aveeno, yes, I've heard that's very good. And
that is the only one I can use. Aqueous cream actually is another one that but I have to still be careful with it. I can't use a lot of it. I'm even allergic to things like E45. And
have you ever tried just plain coconut oil?
No,
plain shea butter?
No, I haven't actually.
Now you know that those ingredients are okay for you.
I might sort of branch out a bit, because it would be nice to have variations, instead of just sort of, you know, I've got this one thing, if it's not available or I can't get some, that's it, because I have naturally dry skin. So the sunscreen would have gone on top of where I'd moisturized my skin anyway. So I don't know if that just helped. But I didn't find it drying or anything like that. And I didn't find it horrible to use. I found it actually quite pleasant, and it didn't feel oily. It didn't feel, I mean, it's got coconut oil and stuff like that in it, but you don't feel oily, which is nice.
Yeah.
So,
I think that is, you know, it's got a high level of zinc in it, and being a powder, it sort of does mitigate the potential oiliness of the product as well. And shea's not particularly oily either when you use it on its own. No. It's more of a it's kind of a cross between an oil and a wax. It's very strange, you know. I find it quite an interesting. Yeah, you can get some quite, if you get an, so we use unrefined, which basically retain all their natural property, all the natural properties. Whereas when you refine the ingredients, you lose the natural scent of them. You know, you can lose some of the properties as well. And we want to try and keep as many of those naturally occurring properties in the ingredients as possible, because they're more nourishing. You know, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do: nourish the skin, look after the skin, and protect the skin. You know, the wax again is unfiltered. You know, we don't refine the wax as well, so it's not white wax, it's like a yellow wax. So just trying to keep as much integrity in the product as possible. Which is what I think makes it so nice. Yeah, and I didn't realize it was more of a powder based, because once you sort of got it on and you start to rub it in, it turns into, I think it's almost like it melts. Yeah, and you can get the clump. We noticed, you know, we had the odd clump, but you just massage the clump in, and it's gone. It just kind of melts on your skin. It's really nice. Great. I really, really appreciate you coming on and talking with me in your precious lunch hour. I'm just sort of trying to. Oh, you're packing, aren't you? Packing, ready to go away. Well, so. I'd say packing. I'm more making a mess at the moment. My packing tends to be quite chaotic in the sense of I just throw it all on the bed and I go from there. Yeah. I'm trying to pack all the first aid stuff and everything that I need. I can never pack light. You were talking about food intolerances and stuff like that. One of my issues is the fact that I have gastroparesis, which has caused, obviously, it paralyzes your stomach. So my diet is very limited, so it's like, okay, you know, pack the food that I can actually eat ish. It's mostly liquid. And I have an ileostomy as well, so it's like, how many bags am I going to need? And I've not actually been on holiday since I had the ileostomy, so it's a case of I've probably packed too many, but I think too many is better than too few. Yes, you don't want to be without in a situation like that, do you? No, but I think especially when you're trying to enjoy your holiday, it's not something that you want to have to be worrying about. No, and I think some of the medications that I do take for my MS probably do increase my sensitivity to things like sun lotion and sun creams, or just things in general. So again, it's doubly brilliant to find something that makes your life a little easier. That I can actually, you know, pop on and just walk out. I actually had to be reminded to use it because I'm so used to just sucking it up and walking out the house that you know, I had to be reminded to actually put it on in the first place. I actually got quite excited. So how long have you been using it for now? I mean, how long, when did you first discover it? Earphones fall on there. I think it was bought 2 days before I sent you the email. Okay. Because I don't just throw stuff on. I patch test a small section here on the sort of the inside of your arm, where it's quite sensitive. And then if it doesn't react there, then I tend to patch test sort of around this area, so you don't end up obviously covered in a rash. You just sort of, if you are allergic to something, you end up a bit itchy around here. It's a bit like when you go to the hairdressers and they do the patch testing for the dye around here. Sort of put a bit around there. And I woke up in the morning and there was absolutely nothing there, and I'm thinking, did I forget to put it on? Which side? Yes.
And it was like that scene in Ghostbusters, you know, when they get their first job and Janine hits the button and says, "We've got one."
Yeah.
And I just yelled that at my other half.
Excellent.
And
so he
yeah,
must be thrilled as well, because
yeah,
he'll be able to spend so much more time with you out in the sun
yeah,
and just enjoy
so
being normal.
we're going to buy several more tubs now.
Excellent.
and quite happily spread them around the house, and I'm going to chuck the other sun lotions away because we're not going to use those anymore. And thank you so much.
Well, as I say, it's just such a pleasure. You know, I started my business with a product that literally changes lives, and I never thought that the sunscreen that I developed would do the same, and I'm just so thrilled that I've got another product that does the same. So you know, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea to come in front of a camera and talk to
I don't mind.
Could be quite a lot of people, who knows. And I'm just really grateful to you. Yeah,
if it helps other people to sort of sit there and think, who have the problems that I have, A, with the sun, and B, with having such sensitive skin, to actually have the confidence to give another one a go, rather than sort of giving up and saying, do you know what, I'm not even going to bother trying. It gives them confidence enough to just try one more, just, you know, try this one, guys. Okay, just give it a go, because it's a good one. It's a good one, and it doesn't I didn't have a rash, and that was amazing. Thank you so much.
So great. One thing I will say is, if you've made it to the end of this video and you have the same issues that Joe's got, please email us and we'll send you a free sample so you can try it out for yourself without any cost. And let's see how that goes for you, and get in touch if it works. So
yes. And good luck to everyone. No problem. And good luck to everyone who gives it a try, and hopefully get the same experience that I do. So thank you ever so much for chatting.
Have a wonderful holiday up in Yorkshire.
Yes, and you take care.
I'm very envious, as I said. I'm just at my desk.
Try and get yourself out in the sun. Try and get yourself out away from your desk for 5 minutes.
Exactly. I will do. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.